Hello, welcome to Karen B TV and Possibilities Cafe podcast. Today's episode, number 42, I want to talk about healing your inner child. We always talk about healing past, that when you go back to your past, you're able to look at what has held you up, what keeps you in place, then you're able to heal it so you can move forward. Part of the healing is looking at your inner child. And I do inner child tarot card readings that kind of lay the groundwork and open up conversation. Your answers to your past lie within your inner child. And if you're able to learn how to go back and chat to your inner child and figure out what was going on back then, it'll really help you move forward in your healing. However, I caution that a lot of times when people start getting into the healing work of their past, they sometimes have a tendency to spend too much time in their past. Your past is a guide. It kind of shows you the roadmap to what has happened. But what's happened is through your periscope, through your periscope, through your lens. You could talk to a family member who could have an exactly different view of what occurred. So don't spend too much time in the past. Pull out what you need to look at, heal it, and move on. Going back and looking at the same thing over and over is not going to move you forward. It's going to keep you stuck there. And I can tell you, when I first started learning how to do this, I spent way too much time in my past. Way too much agonizing over what happened and trying to get every detail. When I realized when I was on the other side of it that as long as I got the general information, I was good. But for some reason, I decided through all the books I read and all the training that you really had to do a deep dive. And unless it serves you to do a really deep dive, why? Just figure out what you're trying to, when you look back in your past, you're trying to figure out what's holding you back. Why do you keep sabotaging yourself? Maybe why do you have bad dreams? Why do you react to certain people in certain ways? Why do why do you do what you do? It's really that easy. So you go back and you kind of get a survey of the land and look around and figure out what's going on. And that's where talking to your inner child helps. So at least the way I teach my clients how to look at their inner child is to just kind of pick 3 points that you want to talk to her, three age points. So it could be 4, 12, 20, it doesn't matter. It could be, 2, 6, 9. It's whatever you want to pick. Or for your first time, you may say, I just want to talk to her at such age. Now, if you're sitting there saying, and so many women say this, that, gosh, I really don't remember till I was 4, or I really don't have any memory till I was 5, that is usually a sign that something's being blocked, that something happened that you don't want to see it, so you've blocked it. I mean, I had no memory until I was, I didn't have solid memories until I was in, 2nd or 3rd grade, but I had flashes up until then because I had something blocking them. So decide what you really want to look at what age. And if you don't remember, when I didn't remember, I went with 4 years old. I figured, what the heck, just pick an age, I don't remember. And when you do it at first, you just take, a couple deep breaths. Now, I like to be outside. I like to have my shoes off. I like to have my feet into the dirt. But yeah, your eyes closed and you just picture, and you can do this if you're sitting in New York City in an apartment, you can still do this. You just picture yourself and you picture the grass and the ground coming through the cement or wherever you're at, wrapping around you and embracing you. Mother Earth is embracing you. You're taking deep breathing hugs, and and if you had a nickname as a child, whatever you went by, you might want to call her or him by that. And just, ask, Karen, little riddle, are you there? And sometimes it takes a while. It might take you a few minutes before she shows up. It might, at the very beginning, she may not, because you're not trusting. It can happen in an instant if you trust that what you see is the truth. If what you see, you can believe. And then you can just ask her questions. I just did this actually a couple weeks ago, really less than that. I don't know why, I just was called to go back. I was called, I was just sitting there, I was like, you really need to go back and talk to her. She has a message. So I sat down and I did it, and I went back, and as we were talking, I was looking around and I couldn't figure out where we were at. And I was like, where are we? And she explained where we were at, and there was a park by my house, and I'm like, oh, okay. said, what are we doing here? And she explained why we were there. And I was like, oh, okay. And I said, I said, you look so happy. And she says, I am. And it hit me in that moment that every time I had gone back for the past couple times, she was so happy. And it didn't matter if she was 4, or really it's me, but if we were 4, if we were 10, if we were 14 or 16, she was always happy. And I said, you know, why are you so happy? Why are you so joyful? She's like, why not? Our lives are our lives. We chose the path to come. You know that. So why agonize over it? And at that moment, I thought, I'm healed, I'm good. And I sat there and I came back out of it, and I always have a notebook or really a phone, and I'll kind of take notes as I'm going through it. But I came back and I thought, you know what? I had a joyful childhood. Regardless of everything taking place to me and around me, I still had a joyful childhood. And how I was able to do that, I don't understand. And I don't know if I'll ever take a deep dive on it. And you may learn something about your past, and you may go back and look at it a couple of times, and you'll be like, it's not important. It doesn't define who you are today. But the more I did that inner child journey, and the more I went back, the more my self-confidence came back. The more I felt comfortable in my own skin, because I was able to understand, I was able to look at me and see where I was at that point and how I was thinking and how I was processing. And you know, like I said, we would have conversations and go back and forth. So I strongly encourage, when you want to start healing your past, to look at your inner child, to just sit and chat with her. And you don't necessarily, it doesn't have to be a meditative state. It does help, but it doesn't have to be. You could just be sitting somewhere and say, hey, little Susie, how you feeling today? And listen. And trust the answer. It's going to take a while, because your ego is not going to want you to really kind of chat with her, because your ego, as you remember, is to keep you in a 10 by 10 room where no doors, no windows, where you're perfectly safe. Nothing can happen to you. That is when your ego is most happiest. So at first you're going to think, well, whose voice is that? Because it's going to come so fast. It's going to be like, I'm fine. Isn't everything wonderful? And you're going to realize, okay, ego, enough. And you're going to have to learn to call your ego out and say, okay, that's me talking. I want my inner voice. I don't want my inner voice. I want the inner voice. I want my subconscious to talk. And the more you get used to doing that, the easier it will become. But at first, I can always tell which voice is mine and what voice is not. If the voice comes out immediately, then I know that's my voice. And I can tell just by the tone and texture of the voice. If it comes out a different, more softer voice, then I know it's a voice, it's my subconscious talking to me. So don't allow your ego to win, and don't come back out of it after 5 or 6, even after a minute or 2, even 5 minutes, and think, well, that doesn't work. And that's why I help my clients, why I help guide them through it. Because it's easy to say it doesn't work, I can't hear anything, I don't get the answers, or she tells me everything's fine, or he tells me everything's fine, or you have trauma back there and you go right to the trauma place and you relive the trauma, but you don't do any kind of healing because you don't know how. You just go right to the trauma and then you pull yourself back out and say, that sucked, I went right back to the trauma. Just take your time, be kind, love yourself. Know that whatever you're seeking is here. It's just hidden in the shadows. But what has shadows, when you shine the light on it, it's marvelous. In fact, I'm getting ready to post a quote I just read from Rumi. The wounds are so the light has a place to shine. Your wounds, and that's not a direct quote, I should have brought it here. Your wounds are a place where your light has a place to shine. Because when you look at your wounds and you shine a light on your wounds, it makes sense. You can look at it and say, okay, I'm not 4 years old anymore. I'm not 5 or 8 or 10 or 15, or maybe you're in a horrific accident at 20 or some bad outcome when you're 20, 25. I'm not that person anymore. Treat that person with love. When I first started talking to my inner child, I was not kind to her. It's like, how could you have been so dumb? Until I realized I was talking to me. And that's how I felt. It was like, I have to love me. So you've got to love yourself as you do this journey. because it'll be so eye-opening, and you will be so different when you finish it. You know, I see so many people looking and searching for what they want and who they are, and their answers are here. You knew who you wanted to be when you were a child. When you would lay awake, you know, I'm from the East Coast, and in the summer, we'd have the windows open, and I could hear the choo-choo trains, because I'm from a steel mill type town. I could hear the choo-choo trains blowing off in the distance and the wind blowing. And when I was visiting with my younger self, I could go back to that moment, and I could remember us just staring out the window thinking, I can't wait till I help teach the world. I can't wait to understand who God is. I can't wait to try to figure out all these questions I have, because I had so many questions. I can't wait to entertain the world, because I loved entertaining. I loved helping people. I loved all of that. And then I just kind of pushed it aside, because people would be like, well, you're not here to entertain. You're here to do this, this, and this. You know, when I was a medic, I would love to sit and talk to the residents, the airmen and the officers, to figure out, you know, where'd they come from? What's their history? I love that. That fuels my soul to try to understand why people do what they do and help them find their way back to them. And if you want help with that, please check out my website, KarenBarnard.com. I have some great trainings out there. Like I said, I do inner child tarot readings. I do divine guidance, 3-part coaching to help you heal your shadows. Because I used to be a mess. I used to be grossly overweight. I used to drink all the time. I was just a mess until I learned how to heal. Let me show you how to heal. And better yet, let's shine a light on who you really want to be. If you have any questions, you guys, let me know. If you're watching this on YouTube, give me a subscribe and DM me. If you're watching this on Facebook or any other thing, just reach out to me and direct message me. Go to my website and email me. Whatever it takes. I want to help people heal that wound, to shine the light on their wound and heal it, so they can move on past it and step into their calling. And here's to you finding your blue rose.